Okay guys, jumping straight into episode 1 of the BotTalk Uncut, we have Michael and Nova on the BotTalk. Michael is the owner of Notify, and we have Nova, who has a huge YouTube presence. If you want to watch their individual one-to-one BotTalk episodes that we have done in the past, they will be linked down below. I highly recommend you go and watch those to get like a backstory before we go and do this. So let's just straight into it. The recent announcement that I do want to talk about is Nova coming over and becoming a co-owner of Notify. That was a big thing. It caught a lot of eyes in the community. So I think the best way to go ahead and introduce this topic is to talk about Michael's and Nova's history. So let's jump straight into that. How did you guys meet?
From my perspective, I wanted to join his cook group. This was in late 2018. I was just starting off botting, and I saw Carlton at the time. He was known as Carlton, now known as Michael, obviously, and I was like, yo, I got to get into his cook group because he's friends with all the cyber people. So I was like, oh man, his group is going to get a cyber group by 100%. Definitely did not happen. But I joined anyways because I was only in one group at the time. And I was like wondering if there were better options. So I went ahead and joined Notify. And that's where I was introduced to Michael, more or less. That's how I got to meet him. Let me ask you this, Michael, just because I'm curious, like when did I end up popping on your radar? I know the YouTube thing and all, but was there any point before that where I was just like a normal member, like basically a nobody, where you were like, oh, this guy is kind of weird?
I didn't think you were weird.
No, you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at our first few DMs like yesterday just to like prepare for this, and I saw he gave some pretty good feedback, like pretty early on. So yeah, that was like in September. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody doesn't know what Michael's talking about, he did like these feedback forms for Notify, basically like in an attempt to improve the group. So he would be like, oh, what are we missing? What do we need? Like, is there anything else we can do to improve? And I filled it out like to the best of my ability to try and help him. And yeah, that's for anybody who has no idea what he meant by feedback.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. So obviously you were in the group, you were a prominent member, and obviously that goes ahead and helps Michael, because I know there's like a good portion of people watching this that won't even remember Carl Notify, or if that's how you pronounce it. Like, I remember when I joined the community, that was like when you made the transition from that to just regular Notify and like making your name Michael known. So it's a very long time ago. It's like 2018, I think. But
yeah,
it's definitely a good thing to know that obviously before Nova had all the YouTube and even started YouTube, he was a member in the group that had an interest on making the place he was in a better place for all members, including himself, and that obviously ties in well with the recent announcement. So we spoke about how Nova gave his feedback in the group, obviously trying to develop it at the early stages, but how did your relationship develop over the years? Obviously it started off as a member giving a lot of feedback, a lot of useful feedback, but how did that develop? How did that begin to grow over your time knowing it?
Yeah, so from my perspective, we found out about Nova's YouTube channel like when he first started, because I'm pretty sure he used to like post it in the group, and he'd like tag us on Twitter when he posted a video, like the very early episodes. And then I don't know, the timeline in my head is a bit like jumbled, but I remember I was in New York for a few days, and as you guys know, Nova is from there as well. And I was staying at the judge's apartment. He's the owner of Notify Proxies. And then I can't even remember how it came about, but basically we called Nova and we were like, do you want to come over to because it was a drop. I can't remember what drop it was. It was some easy 700s, I think. Yeah. And that's in one of Nova's videos as well. I mean, I'm in one of Nova's videos. It's
I remember seeing that very early on.
Episode 7 maybe? I don't know, one of those.
It was the inertia. Easy 700 inertia.
So you linked up with him in real life, and I just want to direct the question to Nova. How was that like? Because obviously, from your perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, you joined his group, kind of looked up to him into a way in terms of his connections and his how reputable he is in the community, and then skip forward a few months, you're literally meeting him in real life, and you're going up as well as with the growth of your YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, it was absolutely unreal. I was like, they're asking me to link with them. Is this
Yeah.
real life? Like, I couldn't believe it. It was like literally, to me, it was like meeting celebrities. That's the best way to describe it.
Big man
Um,
Michael, fucking hell.
The tables have turned now, though.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that, like that dynamic.
Yeah.
yeah, because like I was still a nobody. Like I was still pretty low key, but at that point in time, um, Wolf gave me cyber for free basically, and I was like, holy sh! And then after that, what's his name? The judge invited me, and I was like, bruh, life is amazing. Like all the hard work is paying off. So yeah, it was super fun. It was a great experience. Everybody, like Glenn, the judge, Michael, all
Mhm.
amazing people.
So it's interesting to see how your connections developed. Obviously, anyone that's been in the community for a decent amount of time, with more people, the places you get into, you get access to certain things the public don't get access to. So obviously, getting a cyber copy, that's amazing. And going into these places IRO to bot with these people is obviously a great thing as well. But one thing I did want to tap into is that very few groups in the community or companies in general tap into YouTube promotion. And that's one thing I did want to speak about. Kind of talk about both your perspectives, because obviously, Nova, you know the result of YouTube promotion, but Michael, you've done a lot of YouTube promotion. You've done promotion on the Bot Talk as well. So, what was your mindset when it came to involving Notify in YouTube promotion?
So I remember, like, at first we were considering it like right when Nova started, but then I didn't really know because it was like, um, I thought like Twitter was just the best thing to stick to. You know what I mean? But then once like Nova started, because like Nova grew like insanely quick. And I think it was like around the time he hit like 10K, I was thinking like, yeah, we should actually like tap into this, give it a try. It's like low risk. And I don't know, I just feel like it's pretty unique to see things on a YouTube video because like you're actually engaged with it for a longer amount of time, whereas a tweet you might only see for like a few seconds before you scroll away.
Definitely. So Nova, when you had these companies, when you had Notify come to you, how did you really like pitch it towards your audience? Because obviously with the YouTube audience, it's well known that through like sponsorships across any type of channel, you really have the time and the retention rate to sell a product to the consumer. So what was your type of like mindset when it came to promoting Notify to your audience?
It came so natural, and it's also very, very relevant to my subject topic because the cook group is basically the bread and butter of botting. Like knowledge and the information that you have access to is almost everything, really. So it was super natural to promote it. The very, very first uh, promotional segment I did for Notify is basically just like part of my video, like how to get into botting. So I split it into a few different levels. The first level is like a $0 budget, which is basically just relying on Twitter and a few other free sources. And then the other one is like buying apps. And then if you really want to get heavily into botting, then 100% like join a cook group. And then I would recommend the cook groups. And then these would also be sponsored. So the cook groups that I recommended were sponsored, but they are also genuinely the groups that I used and that I've trialed. I didn't have to trial Notify because I've been in it, but these are the groups that at the time I was thinking, yeah, this is beneficial for my viewers. So it was really natural, really easy to do.
Definitely, especially if the product hits a demographic correctly, because obviously with a huge amount of your demographic either being botters or people that want to get into botting, if you're promoting a cook group, that is obviously going to hit the head on the nail pretty well there, and that's going to translate very well to the viewers. But in terms of the results of those promotions, Michael, what did you kind of see from that? Because like you said it was like a low risk and you didn't know what to expect. What were the results from pushing YouTube promotion?
I think that it just attracts a different kind of people than Twitter does, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it attracts people who are like more, because I feel like if you're on YouTube watching like Nova and stuff, you're more likely to be someone who's like wanting to learn. So I noticed that we were getting like a good mix of people. So from Twitter, we'd get the more like advanced, experienced people, but then from YouTube, we're getting the people who are like wanting to learn. But it's not a bad thing because they have like generally a very positive attitude towards learning. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, they're more willing to do it.
yeah, because they're paying $50 a month for this cook group, and they're encouraged to like actually make use of it. But yeah, I think it's definitely helped a lot in terms of reach and stuff. I mean, if you just look at how many views a Nova video gets, you'll see what I mean. That's more than most tweets will get, like, views.
Definitely. I mean, it is a very interesting way to do promotion. I've done promotion on the BotTalk through pitching it to viewers, and it works well because people are. It's kind of weird, but when you're on Twitter, you see the tweet for a few seconds, like you said. But when you're a video, you're in your mind, you're dedicating X amount of time, and you're concentrating on the video and its content. So if you're being sold a product during that video, whether it be beginning, middle, or end, you kind of consume what they're saying, and it can kind of pique your interest at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've spoke about your early relationship. It sounds like you've definitely had a well invested interest in seeing Notify become a good place because you're in there and you want it to be a good place for all the members. Now, I wanted to move on to how did the idea of Nova becoming a corner come about? Because it's one thing to be tightly in with a YouTuber that's promoting your products, but to bring about the idea of becoming a corner, that's like a big thing. So how did that whole thing go down?
So yeah, as you know, like Nova had been promoting Notify for at least a year, probably nearing 2 years actually. And it kind of just made sense to me. Like he knows the target audience just as well as I do. It makes sense to me that he gets brought on to assist with actually helping meet the needs of the people that we're trying to appeal to and retain. And I think his usefulness goes well beyond just promotion in terms of reach. Like alongside that, we get obviously through his connections and stuff, we're going to get, just as an example, better group buys, for example. But also, even beyond all that kind of stuff, he did graduate from one of the top business schools in the US, and I'm only just currently in business school, and I'm already finding like some of it pretty useful because some of it is actually applicable to like even these small companies. So yeah, it just really helps to have someone else with a lot of business knowledge because, you know, me and George are both like still in college. George is the other corner for people who don't know. So yeah, he just really helps with a lot more stuff than what you can see on a surface level, is what I mean.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, like making sure everything's operating fine, maximizing certain areas. It does sound like a very beneficial thing. But Nova, when the idea of becoming a co-owner came to you, what was your type of thought process behind it?
I approached it like well, let me ask you, like, in terms of what, like my first impressions, or like how I would improve the group.
So let's start with first impressions. I feel like I do want to get into your responsibilities within the group, but in terms of what you thought to yourself when the offer came on table, like what was that discussion like in your head? Because obviously this is a big thing. You're dedicating a lot of time toward a given company, and obviously you have an invested interest in making it a well-sounded company that's the best place for a consumer to go to. So what was your whole process like on deciding on whether you wanted to get involved?
Oh, well, first of all, when the offer was presented to me, I was trying to keep it cool. I was trying to keep it together, but I was freaking out. I was like, no freaking way. Anyways, at some point in time, this was something that I've actually thought about for a while, that it would be really beneficial for me to own my own group, but I know I can't do like more of the micro level stuff because it's just I already work so much time on my YouTube channel and growing my brand. So like having a group is like it's a full-time job, and I definitely won't be able to handle that by myself. So I've always thought to myself about the possibility of just being co-owner of one of the groups that I work with. So it was never like out of the realm of like, it was never out of reach. I know I could probably make it happen, but Michael was the first one who offered me the opportunity. So I took it, and it was only a few groups that I was even willing to consider, and Notify was one of them. So I was like, all right, man, let's make it happen. So yeah, that was my first impression, and slightly even before that, I was already considering something like that as a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard about the announcement, I thought it was very beneficial. I remember when my first reaction was like, "Oh, that's going to be a big thing," because just because of the fact that you have that audience, you have that reach. But one thing that you both mentioned in the discussion during this episode is that you do help out within the group as well, and that's one thing I did want to tap into. So you obviously do heavy promotion for your YouTube and you have a huge audience on there. But when it comes to responsibilities within the group, what other stuff do you help out with? Because I feel like a lot of the audience will be interested in hearing that.
Sure. So so far, what I've done was create how to get started in a cook group video, which basically explains more or less everything that we have to offer, because there's so many groups out there, or rather there's so many beginners out there who join cook groups, and there's just absolutely overwhelmed with the information. So my job was to make that easily digestible, the information easily digestible, so that they can learn how to utilize a group, because I know there's a lot of people in groups that don't even use it. And I have a feeling it's because they find all the information to be very intimidating. So what they would do instead is try to ask questions in like the general chat of whatever bots Discord server they're in, and that's absolutely putting the group like to waste. So number one, we don't want people to waste their money, and number two, we want all of our users to succeed. So that's something that I'm definitely trying to help them out with. So I'm probably going to make more video content exclusive to Notify, especially the more important ones. And also, I have a lot of future marketing plans that I not sure if I can talk about it yet, but will absolutely increase the reach of Notify by like tenfold.
Yeah, that is one thing that I do want to tap into, and that's that, when it comes to these types of announcements, there is possible criticism. And for the most part, I didn't see much. Like, everyone was really disgusted about the whole idea. But I guess one of the only criticisms is like, why would Nova be qualified to be a cook group owner or co-owner? And you kind of answered the question very nicely, that obviously you graduated from one of the top business schools. That doesn't go unheard. Like, that is a very, very commendable achievement. And if you're transcending that into Notify, you're creating these marketing campaigns, you're creating video content, it's all a bunch of unique things that groups don't have. And I feel like that is going to set aside Notify from the rest, especially with having such a big, repeatable, especially with being repeatable owners. I feel like that just brings in loads of people. So I can definitely see Notify heavily benefiting from all this.
There's a lot of groups that are based solely on hype, and that's not what we want to do or what I envision for the group. Obviously, I want the group to be really hyped up, but that will come naturally. What I want to personally do with a group is start with a quality and the foundation of what makes a group good, what makes a group good for beginners, for them to want to stay in it. And obviously, the answer is to help them make money, help them succeed. So so my main focus as a co-owner is to enhance that foundation, and then the hype will come afterwards.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because I will admit, when I first started Notify under the name Colton Notify, it was just largely based on hype. But like, that only lasts for a certain period of time. Like, hype can't carry any business, well, within Sneak Twitter, in my opinion, for like a long period of time. So yeah, I think it's important that there is actual substance behind any hype. Because with hype, people don't have high expectations. So yeah, we just want to make sure that we are meeting people's expectations, because it has become a lot more hyped since the Nova announcement. Yeah, so I guess what we are just trying to do now is just to ensure that like we've covered literally every base. and the hype is deserved.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Notify's been around like longer than I've been around, and I feel like I've been around a decent amount of time as well. So it's like there is a lot of hype, and I feel like there's a lot more eyes on Notify, and you guys can easily capitalize on that. Like I was in my head, I was brainstorming all the stuff you guys can do, and like just from doing this episode, it feels like you guys are maximizing a lot of those stuff. And with knowing Nova's credentials as well and his qualifications, I feel like Notify is gonna get bigger. And to be honest, like I'm saying it now, maybe when we look back at this a year from now, I could definitely see Notify being like, it's gonna be hard to explain. Do you like when you look at cyber within bots, you know that that's right at the top? I feel like Notify could easily be like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the long term. That's a long term goal where it's like super duper hyped up. But right now, what we are focused on is having the group members have as good of an experience as possible to help them profit as much as possible, and then we can get into the marketing strategy. So that's kind of the plan at the moment. Is first, let's try to make the group the best possible group that we possibly can make it, and then after that, then start pushing out marketing campaigns like more heavily than usual.
Definitely. I mean, marketing campaigns is one of those things that are very overlooked in the community, in my opinion. I mean, if you look at, obviously this is going to bots, if you look at AMB and NSB, they've made hundreds of, I think I can definitely say hundreds of thousands from marketing. And marketing is such a, I think it's the problem is that like all these groups are very targeted at like people that know what they're doing. And I feel like if you can market your group properly and have it accessible to people that are completely new, you can really capitalize on that. And if you guys can do that successfully, then you are going to be seeing a lot of benefits from that. So it's just depending on how you go about that, in my opinion. But yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I think we definitely want a good mix of we don't just want like beginners, like 100% beginners, but we also don't just want the group to be not accessible to new people. So I think it's important that we like maintain a balance of inexperienced people and experienced people. So that's why after our recent restock, we did a wait list. We made people fill out things like how long they've been reselling, what bots they have, stuff like that. It just makes it easier for us to keep this balance in the group.
Yeah, that's a smart idea, because then you can just like cherry pick what type of people you want in the group. So if you see that there's an imbalance of experienced people compared to new people, then you can balance the scales. That's a clever idea. I remember seeing that. I mean, it seems that you guys are checking a lot of the boxes in terms of setting up for like a very big takeover. Like this, I don't know any other group that kind of has the hype that Notify has. Like if we were to cast our minds back to a year ago, maybe Restock World, but after everything that happened, it kind of went down a little. So I'd say Notify is in a very good place in terms of this hype, in terms of what's actually inside the group. It's a very good group. I've even done a video on it as well. So one point that I did want to cover with Nova being on board, we've talked about the future marketing campaigns and the video content you're going to be bringing to Notify members. But how does Notify look overall going a few months from now? Like, what are the improvements, what are the changes you guys are wanting to make it a better place for everyone?
Personally, my main focus is just simplifying all these complicated topics. So that can be through video guides or text guides, or just improving the member experience overall. So it's a lot of like, how do I explain this? Some of it is like macro level stuff, but the thing is, I do want people like I mentioned earlier, of all different experience levels to have like a really good time in the group, and to succeed as much as possible. So I'm just like trying to lay down the foundation, and our staff members would be more into like helping with like the technicals behind it more so.
So we've talked about the main topics for this Uncut episode, and one thing that I do want to introduce with these episodes is to talk about subtopics that are currently relevant at the time. At the time of recording this video, one topic that has been circling around the community for a little while, and there's been loads of tweets, a lot of discussion around, is Shoe Palace switching to Shopify. Now, just to set this scene for you guys, there's quite a few bots that are surrounding around Shoe Palace, and its success of the bot mainly comes from Shoe Palace. So the rumor is that they're going to be switching to Shopify, and we actually had Wash Cops on last week on the 1-to-1 series where we spoke about Shoe Palace and how Palace Bot is succeeding on that site. So I did want to bring this discussion to both of you and trying to get your thoughts on the whole switch and what you think about it.
I personally don't think they're going to switch anytime soon. Everybody's just speculating. And unless it comes from like an official source, like for example, if Shoe Palace themselves says they're going to switch over to Shopify, then they're probably gonna do it. But as of right now, they dropped a few pairs, few hype sneakers like Jordan 1s, Jordan 12s. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but what I've heard is that all of these orders got canceled. But at the same time, there's no reason for them to be like testing on Shopify if they weren't going to switch. But that website has been up for over a year, if I'm not mistaken. And they have there was this discussion, the same exact discussion, early last year, if I remember correctly, that Shoe Palace is switching to Shopify. But I think it's just blown up now because of how successful some of these Shoe Palace bots became. So it's become more of a talking point. Personally, I don't think they're gonna switch anytime soon. Like they just dropped the Jordan 5s, and if they were gonna switch, I feel like they would have had dropped it under Shopify already. They're still dropping sneakers on the regular website. So I personally don't think it'll switch yet.
Yeah, no, I've quite the opposite opinion. I think a big difference from because I know the site's been in existence for a long time, but I think the big difference is recently that they actually dropped the password purge, so you could look into the site, and the site looks to have been made to be put into actual use. Seems pretty modern, and products are loaded. I think there was over 500 products loaded or something. I feel like they wouldn't just do that unless they were nearing the final stages. Because obviously they will have connected the inventory system and stuff to Shopify. Yeah, and someone, who was it? Oh, Zeros said in the Phantom Discord that a Shoe Palace FNF told him that they already signed the Shopify Plus contract or something like that. So I feel like with all that in motion, it should be soon. Personally, I think that. But obviously, it's got to be all speculation to an extent.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think that, regardless of the switch, I think my main problem with this entire discussion is that people are I don't know, this is going to sound so weird, but people are getting excited that they're going to switch because of the fact that these bots are going to go extinct. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but there's loads of people that are getting hyped over it. It's kind of weird, bro. It's I get it. Why are you getting hyped? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing that kind of killed the discussion for me, because I'm okay, if they switch, you know what I mean? Bots can adapt. But it's the idea that if someone's put their hard work into creating a module for a bot and they switch, how is that a good thing?
Yeah, I remember
that was kind of my 2 cents.
There were people making fun of washed cops, oh, you failed to get the bag, or this is the biggest bag fumble of 2020. Yet when he released Palace Bot, he didn't even release that many copies, so it wouldn't have made a difference either way. What's 20 copies? That's really not a lot in comparison to what other people might have thought. How many copies he dropped. It would have, honestly, huge respect for Washed Cops for doing that, because he could have easily dropped 100 copies, and then if they switch, then he gets money either way. But he wants his users to be successful, so he still ended up making the copies limited. So huge respect to him, man.
Yeah, he could have easily sold probably even 5,000, 10,000 copies.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
100%.
But I definitely find it a bit weird. I know I've joked about it, but I've never meant it seriously. I find it weird that people are genuinely wanting these bots to fail when it takes so much work to develop something. And they've actually taken the time to perfect Palace Bot. because they've been talking about this for months. Yeah, and they actually got it ready for a public release and stuff. Got a GUI made and everything, and then they only released a limited amount of copies. So it's definitely weird for people to kind of hate on that, but I can see why people hate it. Like hate shoe palace botting, because compared to like Shopify botting and stuff, it's not very accessible to the average user, because if you look at the price of a shoe palace bot that actually works, like palace bot's selling for what, like 6K or something now. Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure you have to spend a lot on proxies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Here's the analogy that I came up with today. That people hating on Shoe Palace or people hating on Palace Bot or any other Shoe Palace bot is basically the same as manual users who have never used the bot before hating on regular botters. There's absolutely no difference.
I think what my main problem with this entire thing is that, like, the people hating on the bot, like, let's put into perspective, right? So Palace bot, right? I'm just gonna put it out there. Probably to say it hasn't. Let's cast back to, like, I don't know, like 4 weeks ago. The bot hasn't came out. It probably has like top 5 most engaged bot Twitters ever made without a release, bro. Like, I was looking at the interactions and engagement. I was like, yo, how is this possible? It's like, but if you account that, right, with all the hype, how long it's been developed for, how long it's been talked about for, he could have easily sold, like you said, 5 to 10,000 copies, but he didn't. He kept it limited. And I personally think it's just commendable that the fact that he's trying to maintain the success, because obviously if you keep users down, if you keep the users down, then it's sustainable and people can get success. I just feel like the same people that are hating on the downfall of the actual bot are the same people that would love to get a copy to use it or flip it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the main reason, though. It's because they can't get the bot. It's understandable, because it's like Michael said, it's inaccessible, and you're seeing people with like so many pairs of shoes. Like, I remember my first impression of, I think, Shaw and Washed Cops, like getting 4 Jordans in one box, 4 to 6 Jordans in one box. So that's like per order. And they got like hundreds of orders. And he told me, I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say this, but he told me he would get like 1.5K checkouts for the Jordan 1 Royal Toes back when they allowed 4 per order. Now that's a lot of freaking shoes. And if you can't access a bot like that, or only a few people have bots like that, then I can kind of see why it's super unfair, or that's what it seems. But like I said, it goes back to the analogy of, you can't hate a bot for being OP, like if you're botting yourself, because you would know the exact struggles of people saying, oh yeah, botting's easy and all that, when it's really complicated and hard.
So we've gone ahead and spoke about the main topics and the subtopics for this episode. That's going to go ahead and wrap up the conversation part of this episode. I'm going to go ahead and improve on this as I go further. I'm going to bring on all guests, new guests, talk about different topics other than the origin story. So I will be taking on feedback from everyone in the comments as well. But the thing that we advertise is that some of you guys will get access to Notify during this episode, and that's what the event we're going to switch to right now. So after this clip, there's going to be a clip of me explaining how this event's going to happen. Make sure to go ahead and pay attention to the instructions I give you, and then the event will take place after the event countdown.
Thanks for having me.
yeah, thank you, Qasim.
So for this episode's event, it is very simple. There isn't going to be many instructions I'm going to discuss here. It's a lot more simpler compared to the previous events in other types of episodes, but just go ahead and listen to what I'm going to go ahead and say now. Very simply, after the event countdown that's going to follow after this clip, on screen you will have instructions on what to do to go ahead and participate, and then go ahead and try get access to Notify. So follow everything that is on screen after the event countdown.